and welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis. With me, as always, is Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Hollis.
I just have to say, if you're not watching us on YouTube, popculturegraveyard.com, you are missing out. Dave is decked out as Lieutenant Garber from today's movie, Walter Matthau's character. He's got practically the same shirt. He's got practically the same tie, although it is a different color. Matthau rocks the yellow. Dave is rocking the blue. Really nice.
That's a look, right? I was like, Matthau, like unheard of. Yellow tie, plaid shirt.
Anyway, if you can't guess from Dave's outfit, we are doing the 1974 gritty crime thriller, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. It was directed by Joseph Sargent. He directed White Lightning with Burt Reynolds. I don't know if you know that one.
Sounds like a moonshine movie.
That it is.
Probably like in the bayou with a bunch of jumping cars.
That sounds exactly right. Or that could be Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. That was Clint Eastwood did. He also directed, Joseph Sargent also directed Jaws: The Revenge, Dave, which is arguably the worst of the entire franchise. Michael Caine, Mario Van Peebles.
That's the one. That's the one that people interview Michael Caine, and they ask him what he thought of Jaws: The Revenge. And he says, the summer house it brought me is beautiful.
Yeah.
That's his answer for
Michael
what you
Caine's
think
approach to acting. What does it pay? Yeah, so that's Joseph Sargent. This was clearly the highlight of his career, and he had a very long one. This movie has been a favorite of mine since I was a kid, so much so I have the book that it is based on by John Gotti.
Oh, the font is the same.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
John Gotti or John Gotti. It is actually a pen name for Morton Friedgood, who was the writer who wrote it. But Dave, I know you'll appreciate this. The flyleaf of the book.
I already see it. Yeah.
Is amazing. The old school NYC maps. It was made into a wonderful film. It is now on Blu-ray. I highly suggest you pick up the Kino Lorber Blu-ray. I had it on video for years and then on DVD. Pick it up if you can.
Apparently, there's a Blu-ray 4K, like some kind of 4K Blu-ray. Like
I don't know if I need that for something like this, the way that it was filmed. It's got that beautiful, warm texture to the film, and 4K might be overkill for me.
They say that the 4K, the person who made the 4K DVD got the prints. He got the original prints and ran off an intentional, like a lot of times it's just like cleaned up digital, but this was from the print of the film. So
right.
Maybe it is great.
Maybe it is great. I don't know that my eyes go to 4K. So I think I may have internal hardware problems. But anyway, it's a beautifully shot film. It is natural looking. It used pre-flashing film for the dark sequences, so it still looks great in the dark. Oh, by the way, I'm rocking the Ultimate NYC shirt, Richard Hell and the Voidoids.
Oh, okay. You could say this is an ultimate New York City movie.
That's exactly right. That's what I was going to say. This is the quintessential NYC film. It's on a very short list, too. I mean, The French Connection, Cruising, Dog Day Afternoon, Rosemary's Baby, and a few others are movies that capture the New York that we grew up in, that we still dearly love, and that does not exist anymore.
Yeah, this one spends time in different places, too.
Yeah.
You get some neighborhoods, you get some driving, you get plenty of subway, obviously.
It's much like The Warriors in that way. It's very much akin. It'd be a perfect double feature with The Warriors.
Yeah, it really would be. It's nice to be from a place like New York because films get made. Like you must have an incredible reaction to this movie, because I didn't get to New York City for the first time. And I went to Rockefeller Center when I was 9 or whatever. And then I started going into New York City in my teens, and then eventually moved there. But I didn't grow up there.
Yeah.
But when you grew up in New York City, you live in a city that people make movies about.
Yeah. And there were all sorts of incentives back then to shoot here. And, also so much of the commerce of this country and the kind of like the showbiz stuff. And there were a lot of things still centered in New York, the theater district. So you pretty much had to shoot here depending on what kind of film you're going to make.
Yeah.
And the plot of this film, you can't shoot it anywhere else. It is about a group of criminals
Who
who
hijack one car on the T in Boston. Like, yeah, I'll pass.
what is
They
that?
only have like
Yeah,
9
yeah,
cars.
yeah. What? I would never sign up for that movie. But
I went
this
to I went to the bar in Boston with my friends, and we took the subway to the bar, and then the bar closed at like 2, and I was like, "The bar closes at 2?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then we walked out, and I started headed back to the subway, and they go, "Where are you going?" I go, "Subway," and they go, "Oh, that subway's closed." I was like, "The subway's closed." That's adorable.
yeah, it's no way to run a city.
No.
Um, so this film is about a group of criminals, 4 criminals, who decide to hijack an NYC subway car and hold the passengers inside it for ransom. They want $1 million. You know, we said it's the ultimate NYC film. I mean, it opens with Martin Balsam getting out of a New York City taxi cab and then immediately heading down to the subway, which is the major setting of the film. Even when we change to go to Walter Matthau's headquarters, we're still underground in a tunnel.
Mm.
You know, we go to the watch commander, he's in a tunnel. You know, it's entirely underground practically, except for all of the, you know, traveling, ironically enough,
Yeah.
in Manhattan, traveling overground, you
Yeah.
know?
Gracie Mansion and the movements of the money are really the only above ground shots.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's not a lot of windows in the I mean, there's windows in the subway, but they don't look anywhere.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
those are the old subway cars. There's no air conditioning. That's just, you need the windows to slide open when it's really hot. Incidentally, for, you know, movie fans, this is where Quentin Tarantino got the whole Mr. Pink, Mr. Brown, Mr. Blue thing from. This film is sort of a masterclass in storytelling. From the beginning, it unfolds so gradually, with all the gang members assembling on the train one by one. And the first thing you notice is the odd coincidence of how a few of these guys all look the same with
Mhm.
practically identical overcoats, glasses, mustaches, and hats. That's when we figure out finally that they're all in cahoots together. They don't know each other's names. They just go by pseudonyms to protect their identities if one of them should get caught. So they call each other blue, green, brown, gray. There's a lot of ingenious stuff here, not just the Quentin Tarantino stuff, but that was used in other films. You know, it's really a very it starts out with the idea that these guys are smarter than your average robbers, and that's things
Mhm.
that, you know, they use again and again right up through Heat. You know,
Yeah, you could show this movie to a younger person, and they might come away from it saying, "There was nothing in there I hadn't seen before." Like, that movie was just full of cliches, and you'd have to inform them, like, when this movie was made, those things weren't things.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
this movie made up things,
this created
you know?
cliches. This
Yeah.
this was before cliches. This film also, incidentally, occurred at a place in time when there were a slew of plane hijackings. You know, the most famous of these being the DB Cooper or Dan Cooper hijacking of a plane, Northwest Orient or something back when TWA.
I remember as a kid, like, hijackings. It was, like, part of the '70s. I could
Yeah,
like, there was the Lufthansa, and then there was the El Al, and like, there was a new hijacking all the time.
yeah. And the
There were
cliche
jokes
was
about it.
fly this plane to Cuba was the thing. And then Monty
That was
Python,
the
I think, did, you know, drive this bus to Cuba or something like when they, and
Jerry
the,
Stiller. "I figured it out. They're gonna fly the train to Cuba."
yeah,
Is that what he
yeah.
says? Yeah, yeah.
You're a sick man, Rico.
"You're a sick man, Rico."
So before we get into anything else, we sang his praises in Jaws. How great is Robert Shaw?
Tell you what, he's fantastic. Like, he's a heck of a baddie. He's a heck of a baddie as Quint, and he's a heck of a baddie as Mr. Blue. But in both cases, he has a thing. He has a likability.
There's a class to him in this.
Yeah.
He's a classy, criminal. He's a mercenary, actually, who used to get paid to fight in wars. And now the market dried up, as he said. What are you going to do?
He's classy. He's got an accent. Americans are drawn to that classy guy with a British accent.
Mm-hmm. Or South African, we don't know.
Right. It kind of points to a thing that turns out, I think, can make a movie like this way better, is you have to give some of your heart to the bad guy. You have to root for the bad guy at least a little. You have to be disappointed that his plan doesn't come together, or be happy for him when it does.
It really is best if you like the bad guy in spite of yourself.
You should like the bad guy. I didn't keep thinking. It occurred to me that I've always loved Hans Gruber as a bad guy.
Yes, Alan Rickman's character in Die Hard.
Yeah. And you could say that this is a prototypical Hans Gruber. He's got a plan. He's got a team. Everything is very well put together and thought out. And he is classy, and he's got the accent.
Also, you root for somebody who put a lot of time and thought and effort into something, who methodically plotted his path and is working towards it, and it's actually coming true. Like, this was an ingenious plan. You don't want to believe that a plan as great as this, and it almost was totally pulled off, and all four almost totally got away.
Yeah, it was very close to working.
Yeah,
and it was a good plan. And I think one of the good things about the plan is that the amount was $1 million for a day's work. If you're willing to take that risk.
Yeah, we'll let someone else go to the inflation calculator. But
right, I know
it's the equivalent today of like each guy getting $1 million probably or more.
Right.
But yeah, that was real money back then. But I just want to, because, you know, history is written by the survivors, and that includes Hollywood history. And so I just want to remind people, I just want to let people in on just how big Robert Shaw was. I just want to put his 70s success in perspective. Check out this 3-year run. 1973, The Sting. 1974, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. And 1975, Jaws.
Yeah.
That's 3 years in a row. That's the only movies he did in those 3 years. He ruled the 70s, and it really doesn't matter what he did after that. But he also did Black Sunday, The Deep, and Force 10 from Navarone, and others. And he died in 1978. He ruled the 70s, yet he died in 78. I mean, he had a better 70s than Walter Matthau. And Matthau had the Bad News Bears and the Sunshine Boys, you know? So, like, he was really, really big right up through the 70s. And then I can't remember, outside of, like, yearly Jaws retrospectives, the last time somebody sang the praises of him as an actor. You know, he was a lot of things.
Compared to some guys who you hear about all the time. It's almost like, you know, he doesn't have a lot of roles that are like fun to, you know, he's not Burt Reynolds.
Right.
You know, he's not a fun guy.
He did more great roles than Burt Reynolds, who was the biggest box office star of the 70s.
But he doesn't go, you know.
Yeah.
Like, Burt Reynolds is adorable and he's fun to like.
Yeah.
And Robert Shaw is like, he's menacing. He's menacing as a person.
He is. Burt Reynolds has like 10 films that are totally interchangeable. They all have like one-word titles. They all have him with his mustache falling off a building and killing people, and it's crazy.
I'll sing Shaw's praises a little more. In the very beginning of the movie, we just talked about how we think you need to like the bad guy. He delivers a smile that you're like, oh, I love this guy. And you know when it is. It's when, I think it's a pimp character.
They call him a pimp. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the matter, dude? You never seen a sunrise?
Ain't you never seen the sunrise before?
Ain't you never seen the sunrise?
Oh, beautiful. And that guy looks like, great.
He's got the best line in the movie.
Best line in the movie. He's good looking. He's got great outfit.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But Shaw's reaction is, I love this guy. Well, how about that? That was a great reply for my staring.
Uh-huh.
And Shaw was totally happy with it.
Yeah, really.
You know? And he does other things too. He's
But
got problems with the trigger happy guy.
right.
He's nicer to the nice guy.
I'll tell you something though, Dave. That smile. Here's what's great about Shaw, because we don't put this on it until later. But if we
True.
think back to that scene where he smiles at that guy, half of that smile is, dude, if you only knew, you don't want to get on this car.
Right.
And you're talking shit now. Wait till you find out who I am. So there's a little of that too. And it's great.
Yeah.
You know, and also this is a guy who's he's used to being in uniform. He's used to carrying a submachine gun when he stares at people, and they don't say anything to him. So like,
he's also used to being in Africa, where people aren't as tough as New York City.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that as a joke, but this movie makes a point of saying like New Yorkers don't take shit. Yeah. Everybody talks to everybody. No, there's not one person like kowtows to anyone.
There's one passenger, this black dude with glasses, who wants to pass to the next car, and Mr. Gray, Hector Elizondo's character. I keep saying Mr. Gray now that I said Quentin Tarantino stole it, but they just call themselves by the colors, just plain. So Gray is blocking his path. He's like, you don't want to go that way. And he's like, supposing I do want to go that way. Like he stands,
right.
There's going to be a regular, there's going to be a regular NYC subway fight, natural thing. And he's like, I'll shoot your pee-pee off. And then he looked down.
Crazy line.
The camera pans down and we see he's pointed a bulge in his pocket at the guy's, pelvis. Yeah. So it's a tough city.
Yeah, it's a tough city. And every cop, every passenger, I don't suppose you could drop me off at, stuff.
As long as you're going uptown.
Everybody keeps their New York toughness under duress.
Yeah.
No one's careful. You know how immediately the whole room quiets down whenever there's like that, we have the kidnappers on the phone scene in all movies.
Yeah.
In this movie, half the people in the room are like, fuck that guy. Fuck that. What?
Yeah. It's amazing. I love at one point that great actor.
The one that I think it's throws under his own desk.
Yeah, I think it's Dick O'Neill's his name. Anyway, he goes, I'm not going to lift a finger to help the killers at Kaz Dolowitz. And Matthau slow burn walks over to him, grabs him by the collar and says, listen to me, you stupid son of a bitch. You'll be having dinner with Kaz Dolowitz. And he throws him.
And I tell you what, it's a very real drop. He like drops him.
The actor falls off the chair. I don't think it was supposed to happen.
Actor falls. Wasn't supposed to happen. It's great that it did because it's incredibly realistic.
And how great is that actor to know enough that that's a good take, to sell it, to take his glasses off and look at him.
Yeah, and not go, oh, sorry, I fell off the chair.
Yeah.
Oh, no, what are you doing? That was it. We had the shot.
It's great. Yeah, and that guy, just Dick O'Neill, he usually plays like Irish cops and he's the quintessential kind of NYC actor. And as long as I brought up Kaz Dolowitz, let's just say it. Kaz Dolowitz kind of was asking for it. You talk about tough NYC. That guy he couldn't turn it off.
To the end. I mean, right? Just marching up to the back of that stuff. And he's in a dark tunnel, but he thinks these guys are like, they've accidentally hired a couple of reefer addicts or something and they're smoking pot in a train.
Yeah, I don't know what he thinks.
He has no idea at this point.
The guy tells him, I wouldn't go up there if I was you, Mr. I know you wouldn't. Like,
right.
It's a shame he
died. And then he gets the warning from the train. You better stop right there, turn around.
Screw you, I'm coming on board, or whatever it says. It's like,
that's it.
All right. That's what you get. And everybody, like Kaz is so NYC. And like Matthau, who's playing this Lieutenant Zach Garber of the Transit Police, he has such a New York accent in this. At one point, because, we have captions on when we watch these things so we can catch every line. He's showing these Japanese tourists from the Tokyo Transit line around. And he says, this is the whatever room it is. We call it the Nerve Center. And he says Nerve Center. Like, and the subtitles hurt his accent and it says Knife Center. Right. It's the Knife Center.
It
Like,
missed it
oh,
because of the noise.
and
Awesome.
Jerry Stiller as Garber's operations lieutenant, Rico Patron.
You're a
Like,
sick man, Rico.
so good.
Yeah. Rico Patron. I mean, come on.
Perfect.
Uh, that tour, I had so much going in my head about the tour with the Japanese tourists. My first thought, which I think was wrong, was when they were deciding to make the movie from the film, they were like, well, let's go see if there's anywhere we could shoot at the transit authority in like their nerve center, in their actual nerve center. And like, let's do a tour of the transit authority. And maybe they did a tour of the transit authority and they're like, this should be in the movie. Like there
Yeah,
should be a
could be.
tour of the transit authority in the movie. You know me, I always imagine these fake
Right.
things that didn't happen. But then that got me thinking, like, you're like, oh, it's a little comic relief. You get to make that big joke where he thinks the group he's leading around doesn't speak a word of English. So he starts calling them monkeys. And he's like, don't worry, these idiots don't speak a word of English.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's called into action, he says, you guys are going to, and they say, don't worry, Mr. Garbo, we can find our way.
Yeah. And thank
Um,
you for a most interesting tour.
yeah,
Most
yeah.
exciting.
And that's a big joke in the thing. And
And the
that's like,
joke's on Garber. That's what's
yeah, the
good
joke's
about it.
on Garber for sure. Yeah.
Because
And
9 times out of 10 in these movies, Dave, those things don't age well. And you
oh
think it's
yeah,
headed
yeah.
there.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you do think it's heading there. Those guys end up looking like the smart guys who put one over on the, kind of a
Mm-hmm.
jerk American.
Right.
But what a tool for the film. Like we talked about Spielberg and his animated movie about how DNA and dinosaurs work. This is Walter Matthau explains the entire operations of the New York City subway for someone who's about to watch a movie about a subway heist.
Perfect.
And you don't notice.
Yep.
You don't notice that you've just been expositioned to death.
Right. You're absolutely right. It educates the audience. You know what else it does? It sets up what his day-to-day is like. He's not putting out fires left and right. He's not dealing with terrorism. He's not dealing with anything. He even tells them, oh, there's knifings, muggings, mishigas. Like,
Yeah.
he's trying to make it seem like he has a bigger job than he does when he's talking to these businessmen.
Even the one actual thing they do have it. Rico says, we had a bomb scare the other day. Turned out to be a cantaloupe.
The taking of melon. 1, 2, 3.
I lied to all my friends for years every time Pelham came up. I
How
knew they
so?
weren't going to get in depth on it. And I had never seen it. And I would just say, oh, yeah, that's a great movie.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very New York thing, is to make out like you've seen the movie or read the book, even if you
Yeah, I
haven't.
think we've mentioned it once or twice. And, I just faked it. I think I knew a couple, because I had been in conversations where I was just listening to people talk about it. So I knew to say like, oh, the third rail. Oh, the chew, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is I had all that fake, yes, I saw the movie stuff in my head. So while I was watching it, I was like, oh, it's so much better than I expected.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, I gotta say, that's like maybe in my top 5 now. Like,
it's a Swiss clock of a movie, Dave.
it
I mean,
really
there's no
is.
fat on the bone. It hits all of its spots perfectly. There's no repetitious scenes. There's no stretching the soup.
As much as it does, I love it also for as little as it does.
Yep.
Nothing blows up.
Right.
The people who are shot. They don't take in the chest and then fall off a building. They don't, even the person who is electrified by the third rail doesn't burst into flames, doesn't have electricity move all around them.
It's realistic.
It's so low key. Yeah. It's super realistic. And it's almost like if you're going to watch Taking of the Pelham 1, 2, 3, enjoy it because it's before they started saying someone built a machine that said, this is how many explosions you need. This is how much blood you need. This is how much to make money. And it could never happen again.
Well, and yet it does. There's a remake
I mean,
of
here in
Pelham 123 with Denzel
right.
Washington and John Travolta, which is watchable, which is
Is it?
fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of goofy. Travolta's way over the top, but
Is it
you
in a
know,
more modern subway, or is it taking place during the same time?
oh, it's more modern for sure. It's a more recent remake. And Travolta, for
Mhm.
some reason, looks like Steven Seagal in it, kind of. He's got like painted dark hair, and but anyway, it's it's fun and goofy. Can't hold a candle to the original, so I'm not mad about it. It was just a fun, rollicking ride, and I'd watch Denzel in anything. I like Denzel, but yeah,
I
no,
think
it's nothing.
if someone told me they were going to remake this, if I finished watching Pelham and someone said we're going to remake that, I would say, tell me what you're going to fix. Like, just tell me one thing you're going to fix.
Oh, it's never about fixing.
But I kind of would be like, set them up to be like, I'm going to do that scene, but I'll be like, you're wrong.
Yeah,
Nothing's broken.
yeah.
But I could see a bunch of actors being, and a bunch of writers and directors being like, well, oh, I want to make Pelham. I get that. Also, Pelham 123 1:23.
Yep.
Or
It is,
it's not actually. It's they get the number for each train from its origin time.
yep. So it emanates from Pelham, Pelham Bay
I
Park.
did not know until this
Mhm.
watching that it left Pelham at 1:23.
Right.
Uh, I was like, the 123, Pelham 123. I was like, what is that? Why doesn't that sound familiar? I know the New York City subway.
When I was a
Um,
kid, before I saw it, I thought it just meant, the taking of it kind of one, two, three, like there are steps to taking the train.
that's good. I like that. I thought it was like a line I was unfamiliar with or something like, like I was
Ah,
like, oh, it must be like an IRT thing. Like, I don't think I know what that is.
yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, we see the IRT station, and it's really great because I talked before about kind of the time machine aspect of it, which is something I love about it. But there's long gone local landmarks that you can see the few times they go above ground, and one of them is the Belmore Cafeteria, which was on Park Avenue South at 28th Street, I believe. And movie fans saw it immortalized in Taxi Driver. It's where
Mhm.
a few of the drivers, Travis and Clooney, are sitting at the table, and then him and Wizard Peter Boyle have a scene in front of it. But it's like a great old NYC cafeteria that was open 24 hours, which isn't there anymore. So you see certain things when they're on the FDR. You can see how different the city is, and
Yeah, I'm
there are
pretty sure they drive
lots.
past my old neighborhood.
Yeah, I believe they do.
Those
Crashed at
plus
your
sign
place
shaped
enough to remember.
those plus sign shaped what looked like they were co-ops, but they looked like affordable housing. The cop who was like, oh, hey, I was expecting something different. I was like, really? You guys are
Oh,
putting that in there? Like,
it's
I
so
don't know.
good because that's real, Dave.
Yeah, it's
That's there
very real.
was there
Very
were
real.
prejudices. We're discussing a scene where Garber finally meets Inspector Daniels, who he had been talking with on the radio all this time, played by Julius Harris, this wonderful old black actor with a very serious voice.
He would have made a
And
great riff. He had the glasses and
yeah,
everything.
he would have. And he's about to say, "Oh, I thought you were a white guy or something."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I thought you were a much taller guy. I don't know."
And
Like,
the guy's sitting in a car when he says it. I
yeah.
thought you were taller.
Oh, it's great. But yeah, Julius Harris is just great. His voice reminds me very much of Roscoe Lee Brown. And we sang his praises during the Barney Miller episode,
I remember.
but it's
Yeah.
that same kind of gorgeous voice.
Yeah, he was
Um,
terrific. He was that prison escape artist,
the
right?
escape artist,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Speaking of which, Dave, did you recognize another Barney Miller alumnus?
I mean, I was watching this movie like, oh my God, Hollis's brain must be overloading. Like everybody looks vaguely familiar to me.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true. I mean, Dick
Barney
O'Neill was
Miller
in Barney
alum.
Miller, but
Oh, I'm sure he was. Yeah, I'm
a
sure he
lot of
played a
people
racist
made
cop.
a lot of people made appearances, but there's
Who is
one.
it? Tell
Uh,
me.
it's a woman. It's an actress on the train. Who's the 20 buck a trick hooker?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I believe she both played a detective and she played like a
She
lady of the
played the
night or something.
suburban hooker.
Yeah.
No, she was the one from the suburbs who was giving it a try.
That's what's so ironic about who's a 20 buck
Mhm.
a trick hooker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The slice of New York City in one subway car, which I tell people, I'm like, you don't understand. New York City is very big. That's not what does it. New York City is well stirred.
Yeah.
Everybody presses up against everybody except the filthy rich.
Yeah. People like to say it's this massive city or something. I can't tell you how many times I've run into people I know everywhere. You are crammed together all the time. The odds are you're going to bump into people you know.
They squish everyone together and they swish everyone around. They're always moving you around, and they move you
Right.
around in these tight spaces. You wind up right next to people. People tell me like, "Oh, I live in a city," and I'm like, "You don't understand. I've touched a tall guy's armpit with my nose, like
Wow.
everyone has."
And
You
you're
know
a
what I
fairly
mean?
tall guy, so
You
that
know what
was
I
some
mean? No, like you get pressed up against people.
yeah.
I've been on a subway literally with 70% of my body being touched by someone else, usually 3 to 4 people.
I
Like,
always wondered why you rode the subway so much when you never had to go anywhere.
I love it. Just back and forth.
Yeah.
Uh, that's it.
So
I will say this, these subways were clean. I think it was like maybe like not less distracting, because it could have been coated in graffiti. Like there could have been a decision to have graffiti in the train.
yeah,
Um, and
I'd
I
be for
noticed
that.
there was no graffiti in this train car.
Right. Another actor who I just want to call out is James Broderick, who played Denny Doyle, the motorman, who was first taken hostage and told to drive the train. James Broderick is the father of Matthew Broderick.
Oh,
He
okay.
he's in two of the most NYC films of all time, back to back. He was in Dog Day Afternoon the year after this, 1975, and he's in this, The Taking of Pelham 123. He has a bigger part in Dog Day Afternoon, and he's great in it. But he died young. He should have been in a lot more great movies. I bring him up just to show you. It would have been so easy to get Matthau, you get Shaw, and then you just pepper in some, theater actors and some bit players from Universal or whatever.
Mhm.
Martin fucking Balsam, Hector Elizondo,
Doris Roberts.
Doris Roberts as the mayor's wife.
She was fantastic.
She's great. Here's what's great about the Mayor Koch performance. And Dave and I will tell you, you have to trust us. It is perfection. And it's perfection because he's not doing Mayor Koch, but he's channeling him. And the actor naturally looks enough like him that it reads as spot on.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
good. And I ran into Mayor Koch once on the street back when I was working in Midtown, and it was like lunch. I was crossing the street one way, and he was coming the other way on Sixth Avenue, Avenue of the Americas. And I said, "Hey Ed, how am I doing?" And he just turned and he smiled at me and he said, "Hello." How am I doing was his
I
catchphrase that
know,
he
it's his
used to say in the
catchphrase, yeah.
70s and early 80s for
It
people
was
that
almost like, tell me about my driving, the stickers you see on it
how's
was
my
like a camp
driving? Yeah.
how's my driving? It was like a campaign, tell me, how am I doing?
Yeah.
How am I doing? And he would open interviews with it. They'd be like, and with me right now is Mayor Ed Koch. Hi, Mayor. And he'd go, how am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And while we're on it, I'll say that he was mentioned, shout out, if you will, Beastie Boys.
Well,
I'm even more over than my man Ed Koch.
yeah. Speaking, Dave and I are always quoting Beastie Boys lyrics. This film is right up our alley because,
What?
well, it's the taking of the Pelham 123. If you want a duty rhyme, then come see me. Is one of Ad Rock's couplets in Sure Shot,
I
I
felt
believe.
guilty every time I sang it, knowing I had not seen the movie.
Well, I'm grateful that you saved it because I wanted you blown away.
I was blown away. This is a perfect movie. What did
It
I say
really
it about?
is.
Midnight Run. Yeah, this is a perfect movie, and
Yeah.
it's funny. They're similar, full of dudes. Like my dad loves this movie.
Oh,
It's the
sure.
freebie and the bean.
Sure.
Um,
Uh,
but I absolutely loved it, and I feel like there's so much mechanics in it that is so impressive.
yeah.
Like
Well,
like I said, the exposition through the Japanese tour.
mhm.
Um, the fact that that Mr. Green is a motorman, and he says things out loud as well. So you got the subway authority is being explained because of Japanese tourists, and the criminals' plan is being, and the subway operations and stuff is being explained by the motorman.
Yeah.
There's all this explaining going on that you just don't notice.
What's wonderful is years before David Mamet, we're getting all of this rhetoric. We're getting all of this like work talk, this jibber jabber that we're not supposed to understand, but it's great for atmosphere. So we're learning things that are important, some
not
that
entirely
aren't.
filler.
Yeah. Also, one of the biggest features of this film, the dead man's feature on the train, which is something, it's a lever that has to be pushed down at all times by the guy driving the train. And if he isn't applying pressure to it, the train just stops. It's known as the dead man's feature because if that happens and
if a guy drops dead, the train stops slowly.
Yeah, it's very smart. So these criminals started with, we know how to beat the dead man's feature.
Yeah, and for, if you're doing what I would do and say, like, why don't you just put a rock on it? It's not as simple as it sounds. It's not like a lever you could just hang a weight on. And they make that point by showing the apparatus that motorman designed himself to make the train go, even though it had no driver. It was a complicated mechanism. It involved being outside of the train to set it up. So that was that detail was taken care of.
Yeah. And that was the purview of Martin Balsam's character. He was the motorman. He brought that to the table. And other than that, Martin Balsam's character, Green, is not cut out for this. And he does not understand, why are we going to shoot they want 10 minutes? Give him 10 minutes. And Shaw's like, if we give him 10 minutes, it'll take 10 minutes. We give him 20 minutes, it'll take... Like, Balsam is stuck. Green is stuck with these actual killers. And it's great to see because we can identify with him. I don't know,
That's
maybe
true.
If you're a killer, you identify with others, but...
No, right, that's true. Yeah. Oh, I identify with Mr. Gray.
Yeah.
Well, I just can't wait to kill somebody. We got to start killing people.
How great is it calling Elizondo's character Gray? He is a gray character. You don't know if he's going to go like Telly Savalas's character Maggot from Dirty Dozen. At some point, he's going to turn the guns on everyone. Like, he's a gray character, so it's perfectly named. He's I don't know about this guy.
Mr. Green doesn't have a lot of experience. He's green.
Totally.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's another chance also to get to, like, when him and Shaw have a couple of interactions and Green's like, what about Mr. Gray? And Shaw's like, oh, he got kicked out of the mafia for being too, if that tells you anything, he got kicked out of the mafia for being too heavy duty. Mr. Green has some compassion, and you actually see Blue recognizes that compassion and actually has some compassion of his own and is also nervous about Mr. Gray. He's like, here, keep an eye on him.
Yeah. These criminals are a cut above, and yet it does not go well for them. We talked about sexual politics in Ratatouille, the sexual politics of the kitchen, the sexual politics of, we open up with, there's a woman working with Kaz Dolowitz, and she lost her ring down the toilet. And that's the view of women, is that they're, you bring women in the office, all of a sudden we're all in the crapper. And then later there's talk about one of the hostages on the train is an undercover cop. And
that could be useful unless it's abroad.
Yeah, at one point there's literally the line like, what good is a cop going to do? Especially if it's a woman or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, but I respect the shit out of this film for being truthful. That was truthful. And I'm glad they did that.
Yeah.
Because it's a disservice to women that had to put up with sexism of the time to not see that portrayed on screen. Yeah, that's why none of the major characters are women. That's why one of the criminals isn't a woman. That's why still they find, chances for women to cork off a good line once in a while. So anyway, this all culminates in, I think, a wonderful final gotcha moment that is of Columbo episode quality. Mathau's face at the end when he opens that door is just brilliant.
It's part of what I was saying about, I appreciate how much this film does, but mostly I appreciate how little it does. Try today to say like, and then the bad guy sneezes and Bruce Willis opens the door and goes like this. I'm making the face that Mathau makes when he pushes the door back open, and he does a face that says, gotcha.
Yeah, literally a gotcha face.
Like a expressive face through the door, through the crack of a door. That's the exciting ending. The filmmakers are like, perfect.
Yeah. For some reason, I just pictured someone should do a poster of like Mathau's face superimposed on Jack Nicholson's face coming through the broken door in The Shining.
Once you started the sentence.
That gotcha face. What's also great about it is that Mathau has already sized up Green's character. He knows what Martin Balsam's character is. They just spent some time in there. Even before that, he was clear they were looking for not a career criminal, not some deadly guy, just some grizzled, pissed off motorman. Disgruntled motorman who kind of hooked up with the wrong element. That's why he doesn't like kick open the door and let Rico unload a few rounds in the apartment. They know that, like, all right, buddy, you had a good run. It's over. You're going right to jail. We're not afraid of you. Jig is up.
My friend Phil used to make this noise. You go, like when you got busted or something. You go, it was
That's what it is. That's what it is.
If he was going to make a noise, that's the noise. He opens the door and goes, And it's, oh my God, it's such a low key ending. And I just love that about it. I was like, holy shit, are the credits going to roll?
How better to punctuate such an action-filled movie that has shooting, that has death. Yeah. And also how truthful, yet again, that's when they catch these guys. When you catch guys, it's never as it's seldom as explosive as when the guys are doing their crime. You know, a lot of time it's paperwork, it's ringing doorbells, it's running up wrong leads, and then finally you break it through hook or by crook by something as innocuous as a sneeze. You know, it rang true to me.
Yeah, and then the sneeze doesn't activate an action scene. The sneeze activates,
right,
sorry, buddy, it's over.
Yeah.
You know, it seems anticlimactic, but it's realistic. It leaves you with a really good feeling. You know, this movie had a fair amount of murder and mayhem, but it leaves you like with a smile on your face.
Right. I'm just looking up now.
Taglines. Mathau's giant rubber face to do that last scene.
Yeah, it was extra rubbery for some reason at that. I think they stretched him. Yeah. I'm learning now that certain studios and certain types of films didn't really get taglines like we have today. They were just, they'd use them for the poster. And one of them is the taking of Pelham 123. Everyone read it. Now you can live it, which tags the book because the book was successful.
That's a different
And then at the top, there's a quote. And it's just, we are going to kill one passenger a minute until New York City pays us $1 million. Which is a quote from Blue.
It's a great example of how a line can be amazing at the time and feel just dead now.
Yeah.
It's almost comical. It's almost like $1 million.
Yeah, it's Dr. Evil-like.
Yeah. But even we're going to kill one passenger every minute. The idea of we're going to kill someone, the idea of it's going to be on a timer. This stuff is fairly new back then. It's almost not been done.
Yeah.
And now it's just been done to death.
Right.
Are there others?
Yeah, here's one. And again, this is from a different poster, a cooler poster, I might add. Before this train reaches the next station, it will become the scene of the most spectacular hijack ever attempted.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't live up to the film at all.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
there's
there's a
another,
certain mundanity, mundane. What is it?
yeah,
What
mundanity.
mundanity?
Hmm.
Because it is a rather mundane hitchhiking. It happens underground. Uh,
Yeah,
think about it. There's walls on both sides and over it. There's a space in front of it and a space. There's very little place for anything to happen.
that's the great thing about it. And that's why I think it was such a genius idea for a book, was that this is a time of airplane hijackings. And it's like, what if you hijack something that you couldn't possibly get away in? It's a
Mm,
very modern way of thinking about screenwriting. And you think of a show like Barry, like why I found it so frustrating. I'm like, oh, Jesus, don't paint him into every corner. Leave him a corner or two to get away.
mm, mm,
Like, I don't like the current kind of way of like, no, we have to eliminate every possibility, because then nothing truthful can happen. But here, it's just he created a series of problems for his robbers, and
mhm.
and then had two ingenious ways of getting them out of it, and it was great. And
And a
all of
sort
the
of overall ingenious way, which is it's never been done before. So
no,
that's an upper hand of theirs.
you can never do anything for the first time twice.
Right.
The
Yeah.
everybody else imitated, and there's another
Like
one. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Blue would have said,
Blue.
sorry, Blue would have said while he was trying to get these guys on board, he would have said, it's never been done before. We're the first people doing it. That's our advantage.
Yeah,
We will have the upper hand. They will have no idea what we're planning.
right.
It will seem ridiculous. And it does. Everyone keeps saying, what?
Right,
What?
right.
I'm taking your train. What? Like everybody is just completely surprised.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
I love it when he keeps going, they're on the move. What do you mean who's on the move? Tell them.
How many
Why is
trains you think
everybody
we
asking
got
me who's on the
hijacked here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Other
yeah,
promo
there's
stuff?
there's one that's like a whole it's got like three sections to it.
I never liked those.
Yeah, me either. They've captured a train and brought the world's largest city to its knees.
Did they?
It's descriptive, and that's what they were doing with all of them.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom it says, how did they get away with it? And then I'll give you this, on the poster is really cool. The entire train, almost, if they did it today, it would be graffiti, but it says the taking of Pelham 123 on the train body,
Oh,
which
that
is
is
kind of
nice.
cool.
Yeah, I think I saw that graphic. Yeah.
And then they use another line of dialogue. It's got Mathau with his mic, and it says, you're trapped like rats in an underground tunnel. Your every exit is covered by sharpshooters. You've got $1 million, but you'll never live to spend it. He doesn't say that.
He doesn't say that, but he implies it here and there.
Yeah, they
Uh,
ascribe it to him, though.
can I say something? And don't take this the wrong way. When this is all over, you should seek help.
You should seek psychiatric
Psychiatric
help. Yeah, great.
And don't
Just,
take this the wrong way.
yeah, don't kill a hostage, basically.
Right.
Oh, man. But I'll tell you something. There are where it fails in taglines, it more than makes up for it in poster art. There are some beautiful ones, Dave. You'll see when I do the YouTube version
That
of this
re-release
episode.
you held up, you don't expect to see that the quote unquote cartoon version of a movie like this.
Yeah,
But
it's great. And in the foreground is a submachine gun held, and there's a woman clutching her kids. Like, they really play it up. I
think the
see
machine gun in that art is actually cooler looking than their actual machine. Their machine guns are they're pretty plain.
yeah,
But I mean, if you have any understanding of those guns, oh, he says, oh my God, it's so great. If you have any thoughts about rushing me, let me tell you how these guns work. Like, I'll kill you all
yeah.
before you take
None
a
of you
step.
would be any closer than you are right now. Like, it
Yeah,
fires
it's a
so
really,
many per second.
and it's kind of important to make that point. People like personally, I would see that and I'd be like, oh, just one wrong, like even a slip of the finger could kill three of us.
Yeah,
Like, Yeah, it's a terrifying situation, but they remain New Yorkers throughout.
Yeah, it's great. So much we got to bring up. There's one woman, a drunk, who is
Oh, she misses the whole
unconscious.
thing.
She's unconscious through the whole thing, and then her bottle of liquor falls out of her
Yeah,
pocket at
so
one
we know
point.
she's a lush, yeah.
So we know that, and then at the end of the film, when all of it is over, she like wakes up and she's like, "Huh, South Street already?" or whatever she says. Like, she's living her best life. First of all,
Yeah.
she misses everything.
That could totally happen.
Yeah,
That New Yorker exists. Most of the New Yorkers on that train exist.
yeah. I, you know, it also raises the question. And there was a Subway movie with Martin Sheen and another character playing like these kind of tough bully kind of characters who basically hold a car hostage, and they're like, I forget what it's called, but it like this raises the question of who would you be in that scenario? Would you be talking back? Would you be trying to help other people? Would you be trying to like? Would you be waiting for an opportunity? Would
Yeah,
you
I
be
think it would be
waiting?
a combination of comfort and keep your eyes open.
Yeah,
Yeah, comfort who you can and look for an opportunity. Um,
yeah,
but they keep saying it. Everyone's saying it. It's such a good point. It's so important. I love that they say a good 3 times. There's nothing that cop can do. He
right,
has a revolver that he wears on his leg,
right.
on his ankle,
And there's
and
nothing
there's
he can
4 guys.
do because of the odds, but also can't start any gunplay in there. He'll get it. It's all about keeping hostages alive. He does anything,
He
they're
would
all dead.
instantly be responsible for 3 to 7 deaths.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yep.
Yeah, and he'd be dead too.
Yep.
Um, he did exactly the right thing. He was waiting for his opportunity, and he took his opportunity. Unfortunately, it took a bad jump, and
Yeah.
but he's one of the reasons there's no one left. In
And
fact, you could say he's the reason, like, other than Mathau getting Mr. Green, the rest was all accomplished because of the undercover cop.
right. Totally.
He slows them, which gives them time to escalate, get in an argument,
Hmm.
things happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Gray meets his predetermined end. I mean, there's only one
Mm.
way that Gray can end, and that's in a box. Like he can't live his life that way. It finally caught up with him. He was from Mulberry Street. He's like a low level mafia goon, we
Mm.
think. Joe Welcome is one of his aliases. Um,
Mhm.
and the other
I
guy,
was surprised how patient Blue was with him. If I were
he
Blue,
needed him.
I would have seen it as a well. He needed him throughout the heist, but once he was on the steps,
Yep.
I personally would have been like, I'd rather not have you around. Period.
Yeah.
You seem angry. You seem vindictive.
Yep.
We're all gonna have this secret. I prefer you didn't.
Yep.
I might have shot him without getting in an argument, without
Yeah.
him insisting on taking his gun.
Right. Blue just needed a reason. And at the end, Gray gave him like 20 reasons.
Yeah, and he's just giving him reasons and turning his back.
Oh,
He might as well have been
crazy.
saying, "Shoot me in the back, shoot me in the back, shoot me in the
I'll
back."
I'll do you one better. When he turned around with his submachine gun, I think it was to shoot all three and take
You
their
think he was
money.
going to lift it? Yeah,
I really
yeah.
do. But anyway, the one final sexual politics joke kind of when the cop is lying there, the cop is kind of a hippie character. He's undercover and he has very long hair and a mustache, which Mathau can't see because he's been
And a
shot and he's face
poncho.
down. And he pats him on the back and is like, "We'll get you help. Just hang on, miss." He calls
Hmm.
him miss because of the hair. He just makes a
Yeah.
judgment call. And can we just talk finally as Robert Shaw's Blue meets his end? Can we end the episode talking about his motivation? If that's honestly the type of character he is, where he's methodical and he plans out things and he's so smart and he's sitting there doing his crossword while all of these hectic things are going around him, does it ring true? Like, what is the motivation for him committing suicide? He asks Garber, does New York State still have the death penalty?
Does he
And
say, does New York City still execute? I think he
still
might say.
execute. So like,
Yeah.
if Mathau had answered in the affirmative, does he not kill himself? Does he be like, all right, this will be a fun trial on death? I think he knows that they don't, so that he can uncork that line. He wouldn't want to go through a trial and then get killed.
I think the only thing we need to know there is Blue does not want to be locked up for the rest of his life. Blue apparently believes that while he is very clever, that he will not get out of.
Also, he planned every other part of this to the letter. He totally decided, and if I don't get away with it, I'll shoot myself.
Mm-hmm.
He knew somehow I'll either be successful or I'll kill myself. He made that beforehand.
When Mr. Green says, I'm going to die today, I'm pretty sure that Blue, not Mr. Green, just Green, Dave. When Green says, I'm going to die today, Blue says, we all very may well, or something along those lines.
Something like that.
And I think it's even more than once.
Mm-hmm.
That is an option. As I'm trying to remember a name from Ghostbusters.
Ernie
Adam
Hudson.
Savage. as Adam Savage says, failure is always an option. And I think that failure is Blue is aware of the possibility of failure, and I think you're right. I think Blue knows that he won't get taken. You won't take me alive.
Yeah.
I also kind of love that the answer to does New York City execute Mathau is
not right now, or whatever.
Not right now.
Not at the moment.
Goes back
not
and
at the
forth.
moment. Yeah.
Not at the moment.
Like almost, you don't even know how he feels about it.
There's a thing. Mathau in this movie, it may be the best thing about the movie is Mathau's absolute stranglehold on his character. This guy who's been doing this job for so long and is bored with it, has been monotonized to death and all that, but also takes it very seriously, is very good at it. He's been at it for so long. He has even this.
He needed this, Dave.
He kind of does, yeah. It's almost like, I feel the old juices running again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely, I always like thinking about the next step in a movie. He's definitely getting a promotion. He might just retire, but he's definitely getting a promotion. He's the hero of this thing. Several times we see other people who I think are his immediate boss or his like executive people, and they're like looking at him and giving him thumbs up and being like, way to work the microphone. He deals with Inspector Daniels great. He's like, no, we got to head back. I know how they beat it. He literally has his gun out and finds the mastermind and forces, he saves the life of a cop. The cop
would have brought him in, would have cuffed him and brought him in.
Yeah, the wounded policeman, the undercover
saves
policeman
the
will
life
tell you.
of the other hero.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he does it all without jumping a turnstile, without ducking a bullet, without anything. He does it all as if he's like an office worker.
I invoked Columbo, Dave. There's a lot of Columbo in him. And Columbo was on the air 5 good years before this, or at least probably 5 before this movie got going. There's a lot of that character in it. Columbo is methodical, uses his brain, not his body. He doesn't hop over things. There's no pyrotechnics.
He doesn't hop. Columbo doesn't hop over. He doesn't hop up on a curb.
No.
and neither does this guy.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's like, it says so much. It's like, Mathau, that's the coach of the Bad News Bears. And this is that guy.
Yeah.
Slouchy and everything. And here we are, like, what a great hero. What a great victory he had.
I'm going to use your favorite term, Dave. This is a love letter to NYC municipal workers. The people that keep this city running. That guy, Dick O'Neill, plays Carell, I believe. He keeps the trains running during this. He has them loop down at South Ferry or something. He and his coworkers find a way to keep the city humming while Mathau can play grab ass with these pirates.
Yeah.
You know,
That's actually, it's Dick O'Neill is the reason why I laughed when that tagline said brought New York City to its knees. I'm like, Dick O'Neill would have something to say about that. We
yeah.
were not brought to our knees. We were dropping off on time.
Uh,
Dick O'Neill has a pretty amazing moment in 35 cents. What do they expect to live forever?
oh God, yeah. He's going to start executing hostages. What do they want for that 35 cents to live forever? What a great line. And
everybody. It's like, how do you expect me to see down the line? Oh, when he pulls the gun on the first trainman.
Yeah.
He's standing, he's like, I'm trying to see down the line. But the subway guys still do that. I don't know if they do now, but they did when I was there 5 years ago. They
they have
lean
to.
out the window.
It's for safety. It's a safety check.
Yeah.
All right. Well, time to put this baby to bed.
We didn't mention Tony Roberts, the mayor.
Tony Roberts was great. Yeah.
Yeah. There were all these faces that I was like, oh, Hollis must know who that is. Oh, Hollis must know who that is. Oh, Hollis must know who that is.
Yeah.
We didn't mention Nathan George, the
Patrolman James. I knew him really from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's one of the orderly. He's an orderly in that. So there's not a lot of women in this, but fucking Doris Roberts gets one of the best lines in the whole movie.
I was confused by her. I was like, who is that? Is that Mrs. Garrett? Who is that? I was like, I know that lady.
Way too young to be Charlotte Rae. It's the I know $1 million is a lot of money, but think of what you'll get in return. And Koch thinks about it. He's like, what? And she goes, 18 sure votes, or however many hostages there are.
Right.
I love the way it's bookended with, because Koch says to Tony Roberts' character, like, why do I want to go? They're going to boo me, And Roberts has a million great lines. I won't even mention one of them. But then later, we just see a crowd of people.
Oh, yeah.
And we hear boos. And then we just see the police captain. And he's like, Jesus, it's a goddamn mayor.
But you knew it was the mayor from having been hinted, right?
But you don't see him. They didn't even bother putting the actor out there.
Just play other shows crowd noise. Just play the booze. Yeah, that was a great move.
Great move. So good.
Yeah, I didn't want to see the sniffly mayor anymore anyway. Like, I was done with that guy.
He served his purpose.
Yeah. He okayed the $1 million, which was nice. I don't know if they do that these days.
Oh, God, I don't want to think about it. Yeah. Not for this subway now.
They'd be like, what's going on? What do they want? Just seal it off.
Yeah, seal it up. We had a good run. All right, cool, Dave. This was a fun one. After you watch this one, watch our episode on the Warriors.
And then watch our follow-up episode, Silver Streak.
Ooh.
Good train movie.
That is a good train movie,
Could give us a triple. I'm just saying.
All right, Dave. Good work.
Fantastic work, Hollis. Thanks for getting me to see this movie. I fucking loved it.
Oh, man. So good.
So good.
Hollis and Dave would like to thank you for enjoying Pop Culture Graveyard.